Today's episode of the Star Local Media High School Sports Podcast is brought to you by Poor Richard's Cafe and Star Local Media. Poor Richard's Cafe, Plano's oldest restaurant since 1973. They are open daily from 5:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m., serving the three most important meals of the day: breakfast, lunch, and dessert. It is true Texas home-style cooking made with love and grit. That is Poor Richard's Cafe, located off of Avenue K in Plano. Welcome to another episode of the Star Local Media High School Sports Podcast. My name is Matt Welch. I'm the sports editor at Star Local Media, and I am being joined by Brian Murphy and Justin Thomas. Gentlemen, we have one more night left in the regular season for high school softball, and as is usually the case, that means that everything from district championships to playoff berths could very well be on the line. Thursday night, because of Good Friday, all of the action has been shifted to Thursday night, so it's a chance for us to kind of set the stage for what figures to be a pretty wild and crazy final night of the high school softball regular season. We're going to go district by district and just kind of touch on what some of the notable subplots are heading into this final night. We'll start with 6A, take a little break, come back and talk some 5A. Justin, let's begin over in your neck of the woods, over there in Denton County with District 6A. Right now, I guess, as far as teams that are, mathematically still alive for a playoff berth, or do we know the four playoff teams?
We do.
Okay, so I wasn't sure if Louisville...
You were mentioning a wild and crazy last night, but probably not going to be the case in 6A because not only do we know the four playoff teams, we pretty much, assuming there's not one shocker on Thursday, we pretty much know the first round playoff matchups as well.
Okay.
So Flower Mound's in first place, 12-1. Marcus is in second, 11-2. Heber in third, 8-5. Coppell fourth, 7-6, and Louisville fifth, 6-7. But Coppell already swept Louisville.
Okay, so that's what I was wondering.
They already have the tiebreaker there. So those four teams are all in the playoffs. Flower Mound and Marcus played on Monday, a game that was supposed to be on Saturday but got rained out, and Flower Mound got them 14-9. So that earned a season split of the series, puts Flower Mound one game up, and the Lady Jags close with MacArthur. They're only 3-10. So assuming they take care of business against MacArthur, they'll lock up their 9th consecutive district title. Marcus will settle for second. Hebron's only a game up on Coppell, but they play Irving, hasn't won a game in district yet, so you can pretty much pencil them in for third. I think they did sweep Coppell anyway, so they are in third, and Coppell's in fourth. And like I said, if you want to get into the possible playoff matchups right now, we can.
Yeah, why not? Should be some pretty entertaining softball between those two districts.
Yeah, so Flower Mound is going to draw South Lake Carroll. Marcus is going to draw Denton Geyer, who finished third. Hebron will get Byron Nelson Eaton, their ranked, or Trophy Club.
Northwest
Eaton.
Northwest ISD.
Northwest Eaton, they're ranked 6th in the state, and then Coppell will have the unenviable draw of Keller, ranked number 2 in the state. Those 5, 6A, and 6, 6A are pretty much already shaken out.
Talk about just the dynamic between Flower Mound and Marcus, because those are two that have clearly separated themselves from the pack, and they split. Now, wasn't the first meeting like a really low-scoring game? Or?
No, it wasn't low-scoring. I think it was 9-5 maybe or something.
Right.
So not low-scoring, but one of those. It's a weird district. Flower Mound beats Marcus 14-9 on Monday, and then comes back on Tuesday and beats Coppell 1-0. So, definitely those two teams have kind of separated themselves as the cream of the crop, and couple pretty entertaining games that they played. But I wouldn't say I wanted to touch on Coppell because they've had a crazy season.
Sure.
So they go 7-6. They have 6 losses. 4 of them have been by 1 run.
That sounds like a team that would fit in right just fine in 9-6A.
4 losses by 1 run. There are only 2 losses that weren't by 1 run. They lost by 2 runs on a walk-off 2-run homer, and by 4 runs on a grand slam in the top of the 9th inning. So they have 4 1-run losses, 2 of which they were leading going into the last inning. So they're literally they could almost be undefeated. Their 6 losses are by 10 runs. The 2 that weren't 1-run games were walk-off homers that could have been 1-run games if there wasn't people on base. So not your average 4 seed there. They got to be kind of kicking themselves a little, not getting up into third or second and having to play Keller in the first round. But pretty strong little 4th place team there when you look at the Cowgirls and what they've done and how competitive they've been against the top teams. Losing to Flower Mound 1 run twice, losing late 9th inning to Marcus, stuff like that. And then you have Hebron, who's kind of been pretty competitive too. just couldn't get up and catch that Marcus, but they've been slotted in third as well. They'll play obviously a tough draw against Eaton, and then you have Marcus. They'll get a Guider team that beat Hebron in the first round last year. So both these districts seem pretty quality. It should be a good first round action there.
Over in District 9-6A, we at least know who the playoff picture finally crystallized a little bit last night. We know who the top 3 seeds are going to be. You have Plano West, still undefeated in the district. They are 11-0. They're the 1 seed. They have that locked in. Prosper, 2 seed at 8-3. Then you have Plano Senior, which clinched a playoff berth last night in very, very just crazy fashion over McKinney Boyd. Plano Senior will be the 3 seed at 6-5. And then that's where things get kind of crazy, because we have 3 teams that are in the mix for that last playoff spot, and they are separated by half a game in the standings. You have Plano East in 4th place at 5-7, and then Allen and McKinney Boyd are still alive. They are tied for 5th at 4-7. So to kind of set the stage for what that means now heading into Thursday night, you have Plano East is 5-7. They have a bye, so they're done. Plano East very well could have helped its cause. It looked like East was starting to. East has just been a tough team to figure out this season. They were starting to round into form late, got a couple extra innings wins over Allen and then Plano Senior, but then they turned right around and lose to last place McKinney, and then last night they were going blow for blow with Plano West, and then West gets a grand slam and pulls away late. So East is now, they're still in the hunt, obviously, but they at least do have that half game lead over Allen and Boyd, but nevertheless could have very well locked this thing up last week at some point. You have Plano East has the bye, and then you have McKinney Boyd, I should say, which plays its rival, McKinney, last place team. Boyd ruled them 11-0 the first meeting, so you would assume that they're in fairly good shape heading into that rematch. Now, we'll see. Rivalry things can happen. But then you have Allen, who has the unenviable draw of playing against first place Plano West, a West team that, like I said, 11-0, got the top seed locked up, but they are very much locked in on trying to go undefeated in district, so they are not going to take their foot off the gas for that game. So yes, not an easy draw for Allen. So there is a scenario, obviously, where if both Boyd and Allen win, that you would get a 3-way tie, maybe get a nice little seeding tournament or whatever out of it. But if I'm a betting man, I'm banking on a potential play-in game between Plano East and McKinney Boyd.
Who wins that game?
It's tough because Plano East, it feels like, is the more complete team, but McKinney Boyd has maybe the best pitcher in the entire state in Kinsey Cackley, who, having seen her, against Plano last night, having seen her firsthand for the very first time all season, the hype is most certainly real. She is an absolutely terrifying pitcher. She struck out, even though Boyd lost due to just some craziness that happened in the 7th inning, Cackley still had 18 strikeouts against Plano, which, coupled with their first meeting, this is just for a sidetrack, just a random stat. So Plano and Boyd have played twice this season. Cackley has totaled, I want to say, 49 strikeouts against Plano, which I know you're thinking at first glance, wait, how's that even possible? Because Plano and Boyd had a 14-inning game their first meeting, and Cackley racked up 31 strikeouts in that game.
That's awesome.
She is, some of the, I don't know. At some point, I don't know what the single season state record is for, just strikeouts over the course of a regular season, but she is just.
Man, that's got to be a game record.
And didn't they lose both games?
Boyd won the first meeting, and then Plano and Boyd split. So, and that's the thing, is that East, Allen, and Boyd have all split head to head. So it's not like if they finish tied that you'd be able to parse through anything as far as head to head goes for figuring out who should finish where. So still plenty of theatrics in store on Thursday night. But I think that the odds would at least favor an East Boyd play-in game. As far as who wins, East got them last time 1-0. But that's the thing, if Boyd gets anything, if they get any runs whatsoever, it feels like 2 runs is sometimes all it takes with as good as Cackley can throw. She's already no-hit East once this season. So, they've split. Both matchups were kind of the same type of game, but I don't know. It's just, in a one-game scenario, it is really tough to go against the team that has the better pitcher. But yes, that is at least what is at stake out in District 9-6A. Over in 10-6A, let's see, it looks like things are pretty, let's see. So you have Wiley, first place at 13-0. They're locked in as the 1 seed. That's going to be an absolute, that's whoever ends up getting that 4 seed out of 9-6A, that's who they're going to have to play, and that's just going to be an absolute bear of a first-round matchup. Saxe is locked in at the 2 seed at 11-2. Garland is the 3 seed at 9-4. And then you have 1 game separating Rowlett and Naaman Forest. Rowlett is in 4th place at 7-6, Naaman at 6-7. They split head-to-head, Rowlett and Naaman. But as far as, you you could have another potential play-in game scenario there because Rowlett plays rival Saxe, second place on Thursday. Naaman Forest gets a Lakeview Centennial team that they hung 21 runs on in the first meeting. So, if form holds, you could very well get Rowlett and Naaman Forest battling for that last playoff spot and the right to play Plano West in the first round. Let's see then over in District 11 6A. That one is, hey, you know what? That one's cut and dry. Let's see, as far as the schools that pertain to our markets, Mesquite ISD will have one representative in the playoffs out of that district. That one became official last night, actually, with Mesquite Horn locking up the last playoff spot out of that district with a 10-4 victory over rival North Mesquite. North Mesquite, who trails them by just one game in the standings, but by clinching head-to-head last night, that gives the Lady Jaguars the edge for that last playoff spot. Horn did so with a nice little 6-run rally in the bottom of the fifth for the 6-run victory. So, yeah, that's a look at least kind of where things stand over in Class 6A. There's much more drama going on though in 5A, especially in the all-Frisco district, which we will get to in a moment. Today's podcast is brought to you by Star Local Media. 14 newspapers and websites with a print distribution of 270,000 homes and monthly page views of 600,000 online. Star Local Media, your community voice for news. And now, let's get back to the podcast. And with that, let's just transition right into some talk about Class 5A analyst. What is at stake heading into the final night of the regular season over in that neck of the woods? We just talked about Little Elm, so we can just quickly catch up on District 8 5A. Not a ton of drama there. Everything's pretty much set as far as at least our local programs are concerned. On the one hand, you've got a team like Lake Dallas that is still just scraping and clawing for that first district win, but you have the Colony and Little Elm, both of whom are locked into their respective seeds. The Colony, 11-0. They will be the 1 seed out of that district, 2 games ahead of Little Elm, 9-2 for the 2 seed. We can quickly talk about those two since you guys obviously have seen those programs throughout this season. There's 2 games separating them, but head to head, obviously not a ton of difference between these 2 teams, both very, very competitive games. How are we feeling about the Lady Cougars and the Lady Lobos heading into the playoffs, gentlemen?
I feel like, I know the Colony's in great shape right now, just rolling through everybody. The only team to hand Little Elm that's 2 losses in district. Little Elm was rolling up until last night when they played Denton Ryan. They were blowing out every team they faced except for the Colony. And then they run into Ryan, a team that they beat earlier in the year 5-0 pretty handily. And they're up 6-0, and I'm sitting in there in the press box, and some of us are muttering, maybe a run rule possibly, 6 runs, 2 innings, it could happen. Little Elm's run ruled, quite a few teams already, Lake Dallas, Broswell, Northwest already this year, and Denton Ryan comes storming back. They had double-digit hits in this game. They out-hit Little Elm in this game. It was just some costly errors in the first couple innings, but then Savannah Phillips, I believe is her name for Denton Ryan, she hits an inside-the-park 3-run home run in the 4th inning to make it 6-5, and we're just sitting there like, okay, I've never seen Lauren Lucas get rattled like this at least this season in a district game. Multiple double-digit hits, home runs, all just base runners galore, and here they are at 6-5, and then they just kind of buckle down from there. Izzy Fielder made a terrific catch the following inning to save. It would have been at least a double. She's got to be 5'4". She jumps up from third base, snags the line drive, and a couple other spectacular defensive plays there. And that's exactly a game like that is exactly what Little Elm needed heading into the playoffs, because they weren't really, minus those losses to the Colony, they weren't really battle tested. It was kind of obvious after all these blowouts they've been having in district, and they hung on for a nail biter against Denton Ryan, and that's exactly what they needed going into the playoffs.
Yeah, because it is one thing in this district when you have 2 teams that are so clearly far and above the others, like the Colony and Little Elm, where really the only competitive games you might play on paper are against each other. So it is nice to get an occasional test elsewhere just to remind you of what that feels like.
The Colony did have a 1-run win over Denton this year, so Denton game earlier, but yeah, like you said, outside of that, they cruised pretty good. They're ranked 6th in the state now. They only have 2 losses.
Much more like it, yeah.
Wait, do you remember at the beginning of the year, the Colony was not even ranked?
Exactly.
And they even had like 10 honorable mentions or whatever, and none of them were the Colony. I don't know how they determine those
I don't know how they determine. I remember 2 years ago when they won.
Those rankings aren't given, they're earned.
Yeah, they weren't even ranked till they made the state tournament last 2 years ago, and then they won.
You win the state tournament, have the best player in the state and other great players, and
Yeah.
You're still not ranked to start the year.
So they only have 2 losses on the year. They lost to Hallsville, who's ranked 16th in 5A, and they lost to 6A team McKinney Boyd that you mentioned earlier in the playoff hunt there in that strong district. So, and then outside of Little Elm in that one game against Denton, they've just rolled in district. Carly Charles is having an awesome season in the circle. Heading into this week's action, she was 4th in the area in wins with 23, 5th in ERA at 1.12, and 4th in strikeouts with 172. You mentioned the best player in the state. It's probably Jada Coleman. She's might be the best player in the whole country. She's only hitting .716 this season.
Only.
Leads the area with 38 stolen bases. Texas, she's an Oklahoma commit.
That's right.
Texas Tech commit, fellow junior J.C. Hamlin. She's hitting .569 with 27 steals. So, they have a dominant pitcher. They have a really good lineup, and they're doing all this without Madison Hirsch. She's a Kansas senior signee. 2 years ago when they went to state, she hit 18 homers. So they've done this all year without I'm not going to say their best hitter, but certainly probably their best power hitter.
Oh, yeah, I think that's a fair statement.
They're hoping if they can win a couple playoff rounds that they might be able to get her back from her injury. Maybe down the road in the postseason. She's getting the cast off on Wednesday, so we'll see how that plays out.
Who did they lose to last year? Forney?
Forney in the second. They played them in the second round. Yeah,
Literally
They
everyone.
had the tying run in scoring position in the second game and got thrown out on the bases for the final out. So they were right there with Forney last year. So yeah, they're definitely looking pretty good and primed to get past the second round this year.
Over in 9-5A.
Remember last year they didn't actually win the district. That's why they had to
Prosper. So they had a tougher
road. They
road.
got Forney in the
So they won't have to
round.
deal with the Forney until the regional
later,
tournament.
yeah.
Over in 9-5A, Brian. This is
My head's going to explode.
This is where it gets juicy. It seems impossible to fathom that you can play 17 games in a district and have nothing resolved heading into the final night of the district schedule. Like literally, 1 seed, 2 seed, 3 seed, 4 seed, nothing is decided.
No.
You have Frisco Centennial and Independence tied for first place right now at 14-3, and then you have a 3-way tie for third place between Reedy, Wakeland, and Lone Star at 12-5.
And
literally everything is up for grabs heading into this.
And all of these teams have beaten each other at some point. Like Lone Star's 12-5. They just beat Centennial last week when they were rolling. Independence has lost to. It's just a madhouse. So Centennial and Independence, they're both 14-3. And what do you know? They play each other tomorrow night for the district title.
How poetic.
And that's definitely where I'll be at Independence Thursday night. Reedy, they're 12-5. They're in that log jam with Lone Star and Wakeland. They play Heritage. They're 7-10, but Heritage, they're playing some really good ball right now. They're not a playoff team, but they could play spoiler. They're not a bad team. They've won some games as of late. And then, of course, Lone Star and Wakeland, they play each other for, a playoff spot. It's not for certain if the loser of that game is eliminated, then you'd have to hope for a Reedy loss to Heritage. So either Lone Star or Wakeland, one of them is going to become a massive Heritage fan for the night. It could be crazy, but, assuming Reedy wins, takes care of business, they've beaten Heritage already this season, they win, then comes down head-to-head Lone Star Wakeland. And imagine this, Wakeland, the back-to-back district champion, left out of the playoffs in 2019, the following season, similar to Frisco Centennial boys soccer. Won district last year, returned a good amount of their guys, finished 5th in the district. I'm not saying this district is as good soccer-wise as in this all-Frisco district, but it's pretty dang good. Centennial, they have their murderers row they call them the bomb squad. It's an actual thing. It's all over Twitter. That's all they talk about in the press box there at Centennial. And they from 2 through 6, they have girls that looking at the stats, they have girls 6, 7, multiple with 8, just home runs.
Okay.
It's absurd. They are a power hitting squad, and I don't know who's going to win.
Well,
Tomorrow night, Centennial beat Independence the first time 13-10, but Centennial is coming off a game last week. They had a 15-0 lead against Wakeland, and then they lose 19-16.
Oh my God.
It's absolutely nuts.
Wow.
They have 15 runs after the first inning. So this district is mind-blowing. So you could have a team.
They scored 15 runs in an inning and then only scored 1 run the rest of the game?
Yeah, I don't know.
How does that happen?
Wasn't there. I saw it all over Twitter, and I was like, what? That's not real. It
doesn't feel. That's a lie.
You are lying to me right now. But yeah, so you could have a team, theoretically, so Lone Star and Wakeland, they're playing for that final playoff spot. Both those teams have beaten Centennial. Well, Wakeland had I'm now confused. So Wakeland beat Centennial last week, so Lone Star beat Centennial last week. You could have two teams that beat the top team, potential district champion. One of them might not even make the playoffs. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. Tomorrow night should be interesting.
So we'll at least split the difference. I won't ask you to tell me who's going to win the district title, just so you don't draw the ire of either fan base tomorrow night. But there are three teams that are in contention for those last two playoff spots. Which two do you think get in between Reedy, Wakeland, and Lone Star?
Reedy gets in. They've proven to win some big games this year, and they have, on paper, the easier matchup, obviously. But Lone Star, they're playing with a bit of a chip on their shoulder because they lost to Reedy a couple weeks ago, and I was at that game.
Chip on the shoulder.
You see, that chip on the shoulder, it's getting bigger and bigger, and
it's turning into a boulder.
They're looking to eat it, tomorrow night. Because I talked to Coach Tom Thuman after they lost to Reedy a couple weeks ago, and he said, "Hey, we got to win out. Plain and simple, we got to win out." And I looked, I was like, "Man, y'all got to play Centennial, y'all got to play Wakeland, y'all got to this." That's much easier said than done, but they are doing just that.
Okay.
And so, no offense, Wakeland, but I'm picking Reedy, Lone Star, 3 and 4.
Okay, there you go. Whoever comes out of that district will draw District 10-5A. That district looks like it's fairly cut and dry right now as far as the order of finish. Right now, I said no drama. You have McKinney North undefeated at the top of that district at 9-0, 2 games ahead of Lovejoy at 7-2, Denison 5-4, Wiley East 3-5. Over in 11-5A, JT, man, we might get some Carrollton Farmers Branch love in the playoffs.
Yeah, we will.
You got mighty Creekview, man. The Lady Mustangs are absolutely rolling right now.
Yeah.
13-0. They've ruled 8 consecutive opponents. They're averaging over 14 runs per game in district, just lighting it up out there in that district. And then you have tied for, at least I guess entering last night, tied for second. You have Highland Park and Woodrow Wilson. Those two are also in the playoffs. And then you got Newman Smith battling with Adams, Brian Adams, for that last playoff spot. They're both 7-6. Newman Smith does, however, have the 2-0 edge over Adams. And heading into Thursday, they both have very winnable games. Newman Smith playing rival R.L. Turner, and then Adams going up against Thomas Jefferson. So if form holds, Newman Smith gets that last playoff spot.
Yeah, you mentioned Creekview being on a roll. They're up to 14th in the state, and only three losses on the year. One of them was to Abilene, who's ranked, I think, second or maybe third in 6A. So, really good season for them. And you mentioned the roll they're on. It's pretty impressive. The second and third place teams, Highland Park and Woodrow Wilson. The first time Creekview played them, they beat each of them. They beat Highland Park by 2 and Woodrow by 1. And then they come back the second meetings and they beat both of them by 10 runs, so really turning it up over the second half, and wanted to give some love to their junior KK Larkin. She's having a kind of like you mentioned, Lauren Lucas. She's doing it in all areas. She's hitting .610. She has a 2.26 ERA and 113 strikeouts. So she's among the area's best in batting average and in the pitching statistics. So she's definitely looks like she's on her way to the 11-5A MVP honors and hoping to get the Mustangs back on a nice little playoff run here.
Looking at that district, though, it's not necessarily a softball
murderer's row.
Yeah, I mean, you got some of the Dallas schools, Highland Park. They've really not been a softball school.
Not up to the level of their other sports.
Still not trying to discredit Creekview. That's still amazing. What they're doing. They're pounding these teams. They're doing what they should be doing.
Like I said, when you look at their non-district, though, they were competitive against some good teams. So.
True. Hopefully that doesn't come to bite them in the playoffs, though, after playing all these non-competitive games for the last month. So we'll see.
Speaking of, so let's round this out with a look then at District 13-5A. We just mentioned Forney a while back, and obviously Forney, I believe they're still top-ranked team in 5A. I mean, they're just absolutely lording over this district. They are undefeated. They will be the top seed there. Their rival,
actually, the new number one into the TGCA poll is Angleton.
Okay.
Forney's actually coming in at fourth now.
Fourth. Well, Forney nevertheless going to be on that radar as far as teams that are looking to repeat as a state champion. Forney, though, taking care of business in District 13-5A. They are 12-0. Rival North Forney is in second place at 9-2. Mesquite Poteet. So that'll make two Mesquite area teams that are bound for the playoffs. The Lady Pirates are in third place, got that seed locked up at 7-4, and Terrell at 5-6. So not a whole lot of drama down the home stretch there. Just looking over some of the the base level scores for this for Poteet. I mean, like I said, it's a district that is ruled by Forney, so Poteet has losses of 11-1 and whatnot, and 17-0 to Forney. But then you look at how they've handled the rest of this district. You've got their last two games, 20-0 over rival West Mesquite, and then 24-0 last night against Lancaster.
Wow.
They've got other scores, let's see, of 22-13 over Kaufman, who I would pity any reporter who had to cover a game that long. Let's see, you got 10-0 over Terrell, 21-6 over Lancaster, 28-9 over West Mesquite. So just some really lopsided games in that district.
Once you get to 20 runs, they should just call it right there. They shouldn't.
Well, he just had a game that was 15-0 in the first inning.
That's true.
You never know, Brian.
Never mind. Forget what I just said. Let's rewind 15 seconds.
And yeah, that's a look at least where things stand heading into the final night of the regular season. Should be some fun times, and that'll do it for this edition of the Star Local Media High School Sports Podcast. We will pick it up with more softball to start next week because we will know who all the playoff teams are going to be. We'll know the matchups. We'll know everything. So we'll just do a playoff preview to kick off next week. Otherwise, folks, hey, it's been Matt Welch of Star Local Media. Brian, Justin, appreciate you guys for tagging along, folks. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we will talk to y'all later.